Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name's Alicia and I am the owner of Alicia Be Creative. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you two ways to use alcohol inks on tumblers. So today's tumbler inspiration actually comes from Suzanne over at Glamour Tribe Customs. She created an absolutely stunning floral leopard design which has really taken off in the tumbler communities. So I'm going to try my hand at this tumbler design, but instead of using spray paints, I'm going to do kind of a peekaboo method, but also utilize alcohol inks instead of spray paint to create that color under my floral design. So, of course, everything I talk about in today's tutorial will be listed and linked in the description below. If you have any questions or comments for me, please feel free to also leave those. I absolutely love reading and responding to those, so please feel free to leave as many as you wish. I will gladly respond to each and every one. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel as well as click that notification bell so that you know when I post my next videos. Videos are posted every Saturday at 9 a.m. and I don't want you to miss out on what I have to come. Alright, I feel like that's enough for us. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so today you guys are getting a 2-for-1 deal. Okay, so I have two spray painted cups. I spray painted one white and one this ice baby blue. I believe this is a Krylon spray paint that I used. So I'm going in and I'm just going to show you glittering this blue one. I'm not going to show you glittering the white because it's the exact same thing, but I'm going in with Sullivan again from Peachy Olive Glitters, my absolutely favorite to use and go-to glitter company. And I'm just going to cover this entire tumbler with glitter. So what I didn't show you is my epoxy method, and I think in the next couple of videos I will really spend some time to show you guys how I glitter as well as, or how I epoxy method glitter as well as how I mix my epoxy, because I know some of you have had some questions on how to mix your epoxy to make sure you don't have bubbles, what's the best way to make sure you don't get lint and things in your on your tumblers while they're spinning, and kind of those kinds of questions. So I want to be able to address those for those of you who have asked me those questions over the last few tutorials. So I'm going to tap off the excess glitter and then we are going to move on to epoxying both cups. So now I have both cups on my turner and I'm just applying 20 ml of Alumilite's Quick Coat. So I'm going to do about 2 coats on each of these cups. So I'm going to do my 20 ml for the first coat, and then in about 4 hours I'll go in and I will do my second coat of epoxy. Again, I am using Alumilite's Quick Coat, so it does dry very quickly. That way I'm able to move on to the next steps of the process and not have to miss a beat or wait hours and hours in order to move on in the process. Now that I have 2 coats of Alumilite's Quick Coat on my tumblers, I'm going to go ahead and do a light sanding. So I'm using an 80 grit sanding block and I'm focusing again on that top rim as I've talked about in previous tutorials. And because both glitters that I used on my cups are fine glitters, there isn't a whole lot of sanding I need to do. I'm just sanding, you know, a couple of sharp spots on the sides and really just focusing on both the bottom and top rims to make sure that everything is smooth. The next thing we're going to be doing is applying the leopard print decals, which you'll see in frame here. And again, these are from Bear Trends Digi Designs. Bear Trends Digi Designs. Wow, say that 5 times fast. I absolutely love her leopard print, and that's kind of what I use for almost everything. So I'm going to be applying this leopard print all the way around the cup next, but obviously I want to make sure that my cups are entirely smooth because I will be spray painting these so that we can apply the alcohol inks directly on top. So as soon as I feel like I have a nice smooth finish on my cups, I'm going to take those inside and just rinse them with some warm water and dish soap. That way we can go ahead and apply our decals and get ready for spray paint. Okay, so now time to move on to applying decals. So I'm going to start with the white cup and I'm going to just be hand placing these leopard print spots. So sometimes I'll use transfer tape to apply them, but because I knew I was going to be using this entire sheet of leopard print on 2 cups, I just figured it would be easier for me to hand place them. That way I can make sure that I was spacing them, the leopard print spots far enough apart so that I could get all the way around the cup. So the idea here is that literally you just kind of have fun with it. I mean, there are times where I have to take off and put back on different pieces of the leopard print because I don't like where they're placed. But really you're just kind of hand placing those leopard print spots where you want them to go. I am using removable vinyl. Wow, I'm like stumbling over my words today. So I am using just some Cricut removable vinyl that I happen to have on hand. I do sometimes use permanent vinyl, but because I know that I'm going to be using spray paint and then doing alcohol inks, I didn't want to have too tough of a time getting the spots back up. But kind of depending on what design I'm going for, sometimes I will use permanent if I know that I'm going to be taking off the stenciling or whatever I'm using right after I spray paint and after that's dry. But obviously if I leave it on there too long, then you run the risk of getting some kind of that adhesive stuck to your cup that you then struggle to get off later. Anyway, neither here nor there. So I am just going to carefully place those spots, and with removable vinyl, they are really easy to pull up and replace if you need to. But you do have to be obviously careful that you don't rip your vinyl piece, but I have more than enough spots here that I'm not too worried about that as well. Could always just replace it with a new leopard print spot. So again, these spots are from Bare Trends Digi Designs. She has some great SVGs, great leopard prints. She even has a set that come with the offset. So I absolutely love to use her fuzzy leopard print. It is just absolutely gorgeous no matter what you're putting it on. And I just feel like we should leopard print everything, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and just speed up the rest of this clip here. You're going to see me apply it to this cup and then to the blue cup, and then we will move on to what we're going to do next. Now that my leopard print has been applied, I'm going to take this outside and I'm going to spray this with 2x Rust-Oleum flat white spray paint. Alright, so today I'm going to be using a combination of Ranger alcohol inks as well as Pinta brand alcohol inks. So I'm starting off with both Pool and Aquamarine from Ranger. I have a humongous stash of alcohol inks that I have not put to good use, so I thought that this tumbler would be a great use of my alcohol inks. So I bought some or purchased some of these makeup wedges that I found just at the local dollar store, as well as where I got my little paint palette that you see there as well. I'm also going to pour a little bit of 91% rubbing alcohol, and that is so that when I go to blend the colors, I'm going to use that alcohol ink alone to blend those two colors together. So you'll kind of see what I'm talking about as I kind of go to dabbing these alcohol inks on my tumbler. So I'm starting with Aquamarine, and I'm just going to kind of make a wide strip of this color. Again, I had kind of an idea in my head, but I didn't know exactly what it would look like when it was going to come together. So I kind of just started off with kind of this wide strip, and you'll see I'm going to actually add a couple more colors in as well, because I wasn't super satisfied with just the two colors, and threw in a couple more. So what I love about alcohol inks too is that just, you know, you think you have your vision, and then your vision very quickly changes because you kind of see something else, if you will. So I'm going through with my alcohol inks, just dabbing. Again, there's no real technique to applying these alcohol inks. It's really just kind of using the makeup wedge, using a rag, using paper towel, using coffee filters, whatever you have on hand, and just dabbing those onto the tumbler. This is probably the easiest of the techniques. You definitely, there's less user error, definitely, for sure. I did get a little bit of running, if you saw kind of in a little bit when I was putting the Aquamarine on, but other than that, really, they're very easy to use. And when you do make a mistake, you can either apply rubbing alcohol to remove some of that color off, or just add more alcohol inks on top, which is also fantastic and easy, and another thing that I absolutely love about using alcohol inks on tumblers. Okay, so here's where you'll see I kind of pivoted. So I grabbed a couple extra colors. So this is, I believe, Teal from Pinta brand, and then I grabbed a fourth color to also add, which ends up being a really true blue. And so I'll list all of the alcohol inks in the description below. You can certainly pick these up from any local craft store or purchase them from Amazon. I'll have some Amazon links in the description as well. And so I'm just, again, dabbing, going back with the different colors and just trying to create these kind of large wide strips, and then using that alcohol ink to blend the colors together. Don't forget your bottom. I'll say I almost forgot a patch of white. Thankfully I went back in at the end to cover that up, but that would have been a little bit of a disaster and had to go back through again. So again, with alcohol inks, you only need like one coat of them. I mean, obviously if you want the colors to be more dark, more vibrant, you can certainly apply more alcohol inks on top, but really you only need one layer. Okay, so now for the second cup, which we're doing on top of the white glittered cup. So I completely messed up the original technique, which was going to be kind of a wood grain look, but then it just didn't come out the way I wanted it to, so I totally switched lanes. So we are going to do what is called the saran wrap technique. So I'm laying out a piece of plastic wrap or saran wrap. You can pick this up from the dollar store, you know, the grocery store, wherever. And I've laid out a big enough piece for my tumbler to completely wrap around my tumbler. And then I'm gonna take my 3 Ranger alcohol inks, which are Flamingo, Amethyst, and Glacier, kind of a pink, purple, blue. And literally what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each color and I'm just going to put dots of alcohol ink all over the saran wrap. So I'm kind of mixing colors where I feel like I need to mix them. Obviously this is going to be kind of more of a blended look, more so than the first technique that I just showed with the colors, because they're going to blend on the saran wrap before you're really able to wrap it around your tumbler. So you'll have little pops of pink, little pops of purple, little pops of blue, or whatever colors you choose to use. I would definitely say to make sure that you choose colors that complement each other. I have done one other cup like this and it didn't come out the way I envisioned, because I envisioned like this galaxy look and incorporated black, and black just totally took over the entire cup and I had to strip it. So definitely pick colors that complement each other. I picked these 3 colors specifically because I knew the floral design that I wanted to put on top, and so I thought that this would kind of complement the flowers. So now that I have my paint or my alcohol inks on, I'm going to take my tumbler and I'm going to lay it directly on the piece of saran wrap, and then I'm going to wrap the saran wrap around my tumbler. So as I'm wrapping around my tumbler, I'm making sure that any of the saran wrap that doesn't have alcohol ink on it isn't touching my cup, because obviously if we do this, then you're going to have huge white spots all over your tumbler, which we don't want. So I'm going to wrap my tumbler completely around, I'll wrap the saran wrap completely around my tumbler, and then just kind of use a gloved finger to make sure that any spots that are still white, that I'm just kind of rubbing the alcohol ink color onto those areas. I do have to kind of remove a little bit of the saran wrap to put some more color on there, because there was a section that didn't have any color, which you can certainly, you know, lift the saran wrap and do so. So then when I do that, I'm then going to make sure that the bottom is secured and that it has ink completely all over the bottom. And then I let this sit for about 24 hours. I ended up letting it sit overnight. But really you only need to let this sit for as long as you need for the alcohol inks to dry. So I would say probably, you know, because it's, you know, covered completely, probably at least 4 hours or so before you kind of remove that saran wrap. Okay, now on to removing the decals. Okay, so we're going to do this in kind of hyper speed because it takes forever to remove vinyl from a Peekaboo cup. So I just am taking my Cricut tool and just removing the vinyl. The vinyl is pretty easy to see underneath the alcohol ink. It looks raised. So it is very easy to find those pieces and remove them. You do have to be very careful, obviously, when you're using any sort of sharp tool around your cup, because you don't want to scratch your inks. But if you do scratch your ink with alcohol ink, just like with spray paint, you can touch it up. So either just putting a little bit of spray paint on the inside of your top or on a paper plate, whatever, or putting alcohol ink, again, just a little bit in a medicine cup or whatever, and just again dabbing those small areas. It is really easy to cover up the alcohol ink in case you do scratch it. And so I did that in a few pieces and was able to very easily just touch up those areas, and it didn't even look like there was any scratch there to begin with. So I'm going to speed up the rest of this. I'm only going to show you this one cup because, again, it is the exact same thing for the other cup, but I'll show you kind of what both cups look like before we move on to applying the final decals on the cup. The touch-up technique that I was talking about, just putting a little bit alcohol ink back in that palette and just using that makeup wedge to cover up the spots that I did scratch. Super easy, super simple, and again, you can't even tell that there's a scratch to begin with. Before we get into decals, I did want to show you what that saran wrap cup looks like. So again, this has dried overnight, but I wanted to kind of do this kind of reveal with you because it is such a unique and interesting look that it gives to the cup. So, you know, the saran wrap comes off pretty easily. It does stick in some pieces, but you don't have to worry about it ripping. But look how cool that saran wrap technique looks on that cup. It's like, I wouldn't say it's like stained glass. I don't even know what you'd call it, but like it's almost like a ripped look or like a crinkled look or like some sort of like distressed kind of look. I don't know. If you can think of a word that best describes that, put it in the comments below, but I just love this because it's so just interesting. So I'm gonna obviously remove all these decals, but we're gonna speed up and we're gonna go to applying the floral decals on top of the cup. So I printed the flowers that I used are on printable vinyl. I got the bright colored flowers from a shop on Etsy, which I'll link in the description below. And then the other flowers I got from Create Fabrica. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'll link that in the description below as well. So I just kind of picked the area that I wanted my flowers and floral arrangement to be, just based on no real kind of decision, just kind of decided where I wanted to put them. What I did do, and what you don't see off shot too, is when I built and uploaded these into Cricut Design Space, is I layered them the way that I wanted them to be on the cup, so that I already had kind of that vision in mind, and able to just go back to that and look at how I wanted to stack these flowers on top. So this is printable vinyl. It's pretty easy to work with. I just print and cut these images right off of my Cricut. And they are really easy to work with. You can kind of pull them up, but it's kind of like stickers, so you have to be kind of careful that you don't rip them, because they are very, very easy to rip. So definitely be gentle when you're applying your printable vinyl flowers. Now you could do white water slide if you wanted to, if you didn't want to use printable vinyl. I will link the printable vinyl that I use in the description below. It's the only printable vinyl that I'll use. It's the only one that I've been super successful with, and I've tried a couple brands. So I will link that in the description below as well. I literally purchased it right off of Amazon. So I'm just going to continue to stack these flowers just where I see that they fit best. And I just love how these super bright flowers, how gorgeous they look against this blue and green black background. It kind of just gives it kind of like a, I don't know, like a tropical floral bush look. I don't know how to describe it. I'm so bad at describing things right now. But so I'm going to set that one aside and we'll move on to the stained glass look, I guess we'll call it. So these flowers I got from Creative Fabrica. Super easy to, again, print and cut as well. I didn't have any issues printing and cutting these versus the ones I grabbed off of Etsy. So I'm just going to apply them again to this tumbler and just kind of layer them and stack them. So these ones came with leaves, whereas the other ones did not, or stems, I should say, not leaves. I did add some floral leaves on there, but I don't end up using most of them. So I just kind of stack the flowers using the stems, and I end up cutting off a couple of the stems just because I didn't like the look it gave when I stacked them on top. I didn't stack these in Design Space like I did the brighter flowers. So that probably is why this one took me a little bit longer to apply the printable vinyl to than the other one did. But all in all, I do love the way that these both came out. They are very interesting and definitely a different take on Susanna's leopard floral design. So you'll have to let me know what you guys think of these, because they definitely were fun to make, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about these two designs. All right, so speeding through the rest of this so we can get into the final touches that we're going to do to add to these cups, and then we will show the final product. Okay, so the very last thing I'm going to do before final coats is I'm going to apply this white acrylic paint pen and kind of use this to outline the flowers. So Suzanne does do this in her original technique. I don't think you necessarily need it. I think it's more personal preference. I did want to try it because I hadn't tried using a paint pen before. I'll list the paint pens that I use down in the description. You can pick these up from the craft store. These ones I bought, it came in a pack of 8 with a bunch of different colors, so I just chose the white obviously out of this to kind of just outline those flowers. So there's no real rhyme or reason kind of what I'm doing. I'm just outlining each and every flower, kind of different highlights in some of the flowers that I feel like needed a little bit of more of a pop. I do feel like the white acrylic paint pen does make things kind of stand out a little bit more on the background. So I do think that that's one thing that it does give as far as the look of the cup overall. So again, this does have one coat of epoxy over it. I just did another Alumilite quick coat over this, just one coat, before I did go in with my acrylic paint pen. So what's great about this acrylic paint pen is that should you mess up or get white acrylic paint on a spot you don't want, you can just take rubbing alcohol and just wipe that right off and then start over. So that is kind of what's nice after you have applied a little bit of that epoxy over the top of those printable vinyl flowers. So I'm going to do this for both cups, and now it's time to see what both cups finally look like. These cups took 2 final coats to seal before they were finally finished. I absolutely love how both of these designs came out. Thank you to Suzanne for creating this gorgeous design and sharing it with the tumbler community. It really is absolutely breathtaking to look at these gorgeous flowers on top of this alcohol ink. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about these. Feel free to leave me a comment below and don't forget to subscribe. See you guys next week. If you haven't already, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and don't forget to join our Tumblr community group down in the description below.